I'm Lior Phillips, host of This Must Be the Gig. We're a weekly podcast that documents everything about the world of live music, speaking with choreographers, costume and set designers, the people who run beloved venues and festivals, and, of course, speaking with musicians about that one gig that changed their lives. Get your peek behind the curtain at consequenceofsound.net, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
It's easy to hear your favorite artist on WFPK from wherever you are. Listen on your smart speaker, live stream from our website at WFPK.org, from Louisville Public Media.
Consequence Podcast Network.
Welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence of Sound, and the Consequence Podcast Network. I'd like to thank all of the subscribers. Hi! I'd like to thank all of you all for checking out the series every week, multiple times a week, new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Appreciate you sticking through all of those. If you can leave a review or give the series a rating, or just say hi in the comment box. That's always awesome and helpful. And if you're not a subscriber, please do hit that button. Wherever you're listening from right now, there is a subscribe button. We will deliver every episode to your preferred listening device, straight into your eardrums. We make it very easy for you. I really do promise that. I'm Kyle Meredith. Today, my guest, Filter. I'll be talking with Richard Patrick about Filter's second record. Title of Record was the name of it. Their sophomore album that came out 20 years ago this year. This is the one, yes, that has Take a Picture on it. It arrived with the single Welcome to the Fold. And The Best Things was also a huge single off of that I love. We're going to be talking about all of those songs right there and how they arrived to the sound of this one, because it was different than Short Bus, the album, the debut one with Hey Man, Nice Shot on it. There were more textures. There were those electronic sounds that kind of appeared through it that, as Richard will tell you, he had kind of put on the back burner since his days in Nine Inch Nails. So we're going to get the story about all of that. And he also tells about the big inspiration for this record. At the time, he was secretly dating Darcy Wretzky of the Smashing Pumpkins, who at that time was married. It was a secret affair that you hear on the record, as not only is she on the album singing on the song Cancer, which Richard will tell us about that experience as well, but the breakup too. It's all there. And it was very raw. And when you hear the record now in that context, you can hear it coming through those vocals. And then we'll jump closer into the present. It was just a few years ago that Richard had done the score to the movie Last Rampage. He's been doing a lot of film scores throughout the years. Last Rampage was one he did with his brother, Robert Patrick. Not only starred in the movie, but also starred on the soundtrack as well. It found Richard in a more, Southern rock, Americana, almost Southern Gothic sometimes feel. So I'm going to ask him about that and the new record. He is working on a new album. Let me tell you, he's got really big plans for this one. New sounds to the extreme, as he will tell us. So the scoop on that one as well. Let's jump into it. It's Kyle Meredith with Filter.
Louisville!
Well, let's start with the time machine jumping, because, part of the conversation you're having this year, it is the 20th anniversary of Filter's sophomore record, Title of Record, which was such a monster of an album and one of my all-time favorites, especially of that decade. So coming off of Short Bus, Hey Man, became such a huge hit for a lot of artists, and you'd had history before that record, but for a lot of artists, it sort of became what I'd say, the opportunity of the second record. Do we try to replicate that? Do we completely branch out to something different? Was that mindset ever there for you going in? Because you were able to play with more sounds on the second album.
So we signed to Warner Brothers because it was an artist-orientated label. It was let the artist do exactly what they want, and we'll try and figure it out after the record's done. So in the beginning, Short Bus was a collection of 8-track demos that I flushed into a record. And I knew Hey Man, Nice Shot was a massive hit. We just wanted to should we put the record out without any other hits on it, or should we just kind of go back in the studio and take our time and do it? And I was like, hey, let's just put something out because it's super fun, and I want Hey Man, Nice Shot to go out and do some work for us. So it was kind of like two kids in suburbia again with a drum machine and a sampler And honestly, the inspiration behind that record was Ween, Pure Guava.
Really?
Because they used a 4-track, and it was genius. It was like they limited themselves to this technology that wasn't a big, shiny, beautiful studio. And they said, like, it can't go beyond this technology, and like they put that record out. And I don't know if they did anything with that record, but it was genius. I loved the fact that they were thumbing their nose at not only, you know, the mold of hair metal. It was electronically punk. It was, I'm avant-garde because I'm using this technology and I'm never going beyond a 4-track. And it said that in their contract. So I was really blown away that, like, two knuckleheads can get together and just make great music and kind of thumb their nose at the industry of studios. And, you know, because back in the day, you want to make a record, it costs like $200,000 or $300,000. And, you know, there was this pressure, and, you know, the studio was like, you know, $400 an hour, and you had to get in there and you had to be awesome immediately. I mean, you saw Sound City, right, with Dave Grohl?
Yeah.
We're like, you know, a lot of people, you know, but we wanted to be like the crazy kids with, you know, a refrigerator full of beer and like a drum machine and put a record out. And that's what Short Bus was all about. Short Bus was all about two knuckleheads with a computer and a drum machine getting together and playing music and recording guitars improperly and using a drum machine, like, you know, not even a drummer, like just drum machine, you know, it's easier, it's cheaper, and it's the way of the future. You know, it was just, we were just goofing off, really. So that's what Short Bus was about. And the title of record was, I had been dating Darcy from the Smashing Pumpkins, so I was constantly around like the Pumpkins and Billy, and you know, and they were an inspiration in the record in the sense that he's like, well, you should do other things other than just drop D. You should try, like, you know, other stuff. And I listened to that, and you know, Darcy was she put her femininity into Filter and Take a Picture. I was like, well, here's a song that I think could be pretty cool and do some work for us. And, you know, and that was the most feminine, like, beautiful thing I'd ever done. And I knew that the record company was going to be shocked because here they had the two drunk kids in the house, you know, in Rocky River, and now all of a sudden they've got this artist that's wearing nicer clothes, and, you know, he's got some money now, and he wants to build a studio, and he's got a drummer, you know, so it was a massive departure. And they said, like, you know, this is a huge departure. Howie Klein came in and listened to Take a Picture, and he goes, how are your fans going to react to this? And I was like, I don't know, dude. That's your job. Like, literally putting everything on the label and saying, I'm not here to be the last thing I want to be is 60 years old wearing a schoolboy's outfit, jumping around the stage, doing my shtick
right
at 80 years old or 70 or whatever the hell. I don't want to be wearing face makeup and wearing some outfit that I picked out when I was 20 with monster boots. Now, some people love that. Some people are like, you know, I got a friend from a band. He found his niche, and he services just those people. You know, he's like, heavy metal is my niche, and I'm never going beyond the boundaries, the conservative boundaries of heavy metal. Long hair, check. You know, black clothes, check. You know, upside down cross, check. You know, it's never going to go beyond what that is. And so for Filter, I was like, I'm alternative. You know, I see myself as more like a Chino or a Billy Corrigan or a Kurt Cobain than I do, or Trent, than I do the guy who's got to wear the makeup. I don't want to be 75 years old wearing makeup, jumping around the stage, doing that stuff. That's not my life. That's not who I am. It's like I change, I grow. I'm an artist. And see, that's what Warner Brothers was all about. That's why I brought them up, because to me, it's like if you're not growing, if you're not challenging your audience, then what are you doing? Mm-hmm. Like, wouldn't it be amazing if all of a sudden Little Pump in like 5 years was like politically driven, and he'd grown up a little bit, and it wasn't about coming in the mouth in the mouth. It was actually like we gotta like take care of each other. Like, I mean, it would be quite a shot. But if he could pull that off, that'd be amazing, right? And see, for me, it's like being an artist is like you've got to try some other things. And so the bad news was that when Take a Picture came out, a friend of mine said, yeah, my son heard Take a Picture. He said, Filter went, we've gotten soft. And I was just like, wow, really? And so that's the danger of like going against the grain and going against but that's kind of that was the reaction of some people. It's like, and see, for me, it was like, no, if you get the record, you've got Welcome to the Fold. And Welcome to the Fold was just this amazing, like totally just, so for the listeners, that Welcome to the Fold is the first song on the record of title of record. And it just kind of lays waste that we've chilled or we've gotten soft. But Welcome to the Fold is like this gigantic, indulgent, just massive 8-minute song that's all screamed out and just vindictive. And someone was suing me at the time, and I was mad about it, so I just scribbled it in the notepad. You take my money, and that to me was like, no, I've established that the record's still heavy and still mean, but because I'm a human being, I have different emotions, and I would hope that my voice can be used in other ways, and I have a very flexible range, so why not do like pretty falsetto at the same time as screaming? So that's why the record has legs. But at the time, it was a real big gamble for the label. The label was like, wow, you're not two knuckleheads anymore. You're a band. You're wearing leather. You're buying expensive cars, and you're hanging out with some other amazing people that have influenced you a little bit, and you're developed. How are we going to market that? You know what I mean? And they still did, and they put it out, and they put it out with force, with energy, with energy behind it. And I think that that's kind of how the record has legs all these years, because you can finally hear, like, okay, if you get over the initial sticker shock of, wow, Filter is melodic, and they put chords together and they sing in falsetto, as once you kind of get over that hurdle and you listen to the record and you live with it, it becomes a great big journey. Yeah. And so I think there's talk of I don't want to speak out of turn, but there might be talk of me doing title of record and Short Bus on Short Bus's 25th anniversary next year.
Oh, cool.
Going out and doing Short Bus, which is only, the record's only 40 minutes long, and then doing title of record right after it to show the growth. And since we just did title of record, we did title of record start to finish just a few days ago in Los Angeles, and it was just really epic to hear it all back to back like that. So I don't know. I'm very proud of the record. I'm extremely. It took a lot of risk, and there was a lot of secrets in that record. I didn't want to talk about my then girlfriend at the time, Darcy Wretzky, because she was also Darcy Wretzky Brown. She was married at the time, and she had an open relationship with her husband, and so I was when I sang that song, I'm Not the Only One, like I meant it, like for real. I was living it. It was a real thing. It wasn't just some pop song I put together. It was lived. And there's something in those vocals. There's every single time something would happen to me that was important to me, like I would flip on the mic and just start recording, and it grew out into this gorgeous record called Title of Record, and I can't be more proud of it.
Knowing everything that you've said recently about her being the inspiration for a lot of these songs, she did the backup on Cancer, right? She's actually on the record.
Yeah, we had to disguise her. Well, she kept saying, see, this is the thing. she's like, Rich, can you sound like a little boy? Like take a picture. Can you sound like a little boy? And I was like, you mean like stay cool, or like you mean like that? And she's like, well, not like that, but like, because that's what she did with Billy. She was like, Billy, try and sound like a boy, like a little kid, like sing as soft as possible, and then she would double his vocals. So the Smashing Pumpkins that everybody knows and loves is half her. Like right. she's singing those vocals with Billy in a very kind of Darcy way. And like it's part of the Smashing Pumpkins OG original sound. Mm-hmm. The original gangster sound is like her. So when she was telling me how to sing Cancer, because she just happened to be in the studio that time, and she was like, Are you gonna sing it heavy like that? I was like, I can't figure out how to sing this. And she was literally right there, and she's like, sing it like a little boy. So I sang it my way, and then she goes, let me do it. And she comes in, she lies on the floor, she puts the mic down in the middle of the floor, like we put the mic right over her face, and she's lying on the ground with like a pillow, and she's sitting there, and she's like, okay, now record me. And she records the song, and she's like, hey, my child. Like, I can't do it because it's so soft. It's really hard to sing soft, by the way. She does it, and she does this gorgeous take, and I'm like, well, how can I? I'm like, can I just use that? Can I just use you doing it? And she was like, well, I guess so, but you're gonna have to change my name because the record company's never gonna let me put this out. And I'm like, okay, cool. So we changed her name, and I think it was Miss Blue or something. I can't remember how we put it on the record, but it was great. Yeah. I was like, yes, thank you. I can't sing as good as you. You do it. So
it's interesting just hearing, now listening back to the record, because I love this record, and I can. It's one of those records where I can pinpoint the moment I heard certain songs. Like the great records in your life that kind of lead to that. But kind of getting the recontextualizing that, as you've been talking about it more and more openly this year, here, like you can hear the emotion. Like, and as you said, just when something happened, you flip the switch and there's the song. It's like, oh man, I can hear that now in a way that like when I first heard Welcome to the Fold, my jaw dropped. It was a powerful moment. I believe the first time I heard it was the video premiere, and you've got the desert and the cube and all that stuff out there. And not even just that first line, but that I'd kill your father to destroy his seed. And you're like, wow, this is rough.
Yeah, it's hard. See, that's the thing. Like, the reason why I love Pantera is not because the rest of the guys, and I jokingly say that, but Dimebag and all those guys and Rex and Vinny, it's not because they had long hair, right? It's because Phil shaved his head. And was hard and was the meanest man in the world when it came to the heaviest, toughest human being on the planet. And that's why I loved Phil, because it was heavy, but in a totally punk, you're looking at his shaved head and you're kind of like, I hope you're not a skinhead. I hope you're not like, I hope you're not in prison. But he was so freaking tough and hard that made me like that made like me reassured to be like, yeah, I'm just gonna scream about your dad's seed. Like I'm so over you. I don't even want you. Like there's already too many of you. I want to talk about castrating your dad. I'll kill your father to destroy his seed. That's about the worst thing that you could possibly say to. I think the only thing worse is like, hey, I hurt your mom to destroy her. It's awful. Right. But that's art. Art has to reflect everything. It has to be everything, and that's why I was like, well, that's the hardest song ever written. Welcome to the Fold is the hardest song ever written, and it caught the attention at the time of like Howard Stern and all. Like, what is he saying? I'll kill your father to destroy his seed, and it's on the radio. Yeah. So it was. You got to reflect your surroundings, and that's how mad you get sometimes. And it's not. But see, the funny thing is with me is in the song "Welcome to the Fold" when we perform it now. I say, Mom, I'm home. Mom, where's that shotgun? Mom, some kids are making fun of me at school. Where's the shotgun, Mom? And then, like, I change it to, like, hey, Mom, forget that. Mom, where's my microphone? Where's my guitar, Mom? Mom, where's my drum machine? Instead of, Mama, give me my medicine. It's like it's turned into this whole thing of, like, no, Ma, just give me my mic and my guitar. That's what I'll do. Forget the gun. Give your kids, the point is, don't give your kids shotguns and weapons. Give them microphones, give them drum machines, give them DJ equipment, give them a computer, give them like that's the best way to live out revenge, is by doing well and screaming into a mic and making tons of money and flying around the world, and it's not showing up to school to kill your friends. You know, it's not a weapon.
Right.
Because you're going to get over it.
Right.
Everybody in high school who's listening to this, you're going to get over it. You know, I was sued. I lived. Guess what? I lived, you know. I was mad at the time, but it's the way it is.
It makes great art. And it does. And, you know, and I feel like I could go through the record and so compliment it, because the best thing was my favorite then. It's probably still my favorite now. I freaking love that song, and kind of the connection to Can't You Trip Like I Do. I mean, that seems like an obvious thread anyway to kind of how it led into this album, I guess, when you started playing around. Because even with the drum machine, that first album, it's not so evident, but you really start playing with that, which, you know, considering the era, it also was, you know, 'twas the season, I guess, for that sound, but you really made it something special.
Well, see, I was avoiding it. See, because I was in Nine Inch Nails, I was avoiding synth, specifically synthesizers. And I was like, we got to do our thing. You know, it's already bad enough we got a drum machine, because Trent's all over drum machines. But, like, it's already bad enough, so we got to, like, use the guitar. And I was like, I know how to play guitar enough, but I want to make, like, sounds that were, like, from the guitar, but we took them, put them into the computer, turned them around, dropped them down an octave, grabbed one little segment of like a feedback and, like, use that as a melody, as opposed to playing a melody on the guitar. It's a long, involved process, but it's more original to do something different with the guitar and do something. I mean, you know, Pete Townsend recently said, we have done enough with the guitar. Like, that's the reason why rock is dead. And I think he's kind of wrong, because you can still mess with it in a computer in a way that I'm doing right now, even for film score. Like, I'm still discovering new ways to, like, mess with a guitar, but it's all computer based. So Trip Like I Do was the blatant, like, excuse to go ahead and, you know, and push the envelope with synthesizers, because it was, you know, it was the Crystal Method. Yeah. And the Crystal Method thing was for the movie Spawn, and it was a great excuse to get together with them and go, okay, now what? You know, let's really dive into, like, synthesizers and stuff like that. And then for title of record, I got more into, like, owning a studio, having drums, knowing musicians. I knew a lot of musicians. After Short Bus, it was kind of like I was only, like, in Nine Inch Nails, I was only around Trent, and then, like, I didn't hang out with any other musicians. And then I went back to Cleveland to do Short Bus, and it was still, like, we had tried to, like, hire a drummer, and the band that found out that I was talking to this drummer found out and, like, attacked me at the Grog Shop in Cleveland, Ohio, and, like, you can't steal our drummer. And I'm like, okay, Cleveland's so small that, like, they only have one drummer. So I got to move to Chicago to flesh out the band for Short Bus. Because, you know, Short Bus was, yeah, sure, we used a drum machine on the record, but when you play live, why not have a real guy play drums, you know? And, you know, boom, here comes Matt Walker, who was then stolen by the Smashing Pumpkins, you know? So that's how it is with drummers. You lose them fast, you know what I mean? You either make them a member of the band like Larry Mullen, or you know, they get swept out right out from underneath your feet. Just like my drummer drummer right now, Chris Reeve, who plays drums for us, has got swallowed up by Tom Morello, and then Avril Lavigne.
Yeah.
So Avril Lavigne. So literally, Chris Reeve is on tour with Avril Lavigne, and that's just the way it is with drummers. I mean, as soon as they join Filter, they're available for for anything else as well. And that's kind of the truth, because it's so, every day I flip on a computer and I don't know what's going to happen. Because I've already expanded and grown over the years that, I've covered all my bases. You could get a pop song like Take a Picture. A few years ago, we released a song called Surprise, which was just gorgeous and sounds a little bit like Take a Picture. And then, on this last record, Crazy Eyes, we released a record, Crazy Eyes, and it went more industrial. It went more computer-based with Umi Capello playing guitar. So the world of discovery is still out there, and I still challenge myself to create new sounds and new emotions, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, you kind of get that. I mean, you did the Last Rampage score, was a couple years ago, probably 2 or 3 years ago now that came out, right? And
yeah.
I mean, that I love that kind of filter. I'm sorry, that no pun intended. that sound
right.
You're pushing out there, because it is that's different. I mean, you're almost going in sort of an Americana thing every once in a while, that desert blues area.
Yeah. Well, I read the script, and it's Southern. Actually, the song, they needed a song for the opening credits, and I got together with Bob Marlette, and I was like, who just happens to be Leonard Skinner's, producer, and I was like, let's write some Kentucky Fried music right now. Mm-hmm. And he was like, all right, let's do it. So we wrote this song that was, straight up just rock and, Southern rock, and that's because the script needed it. And for me, it's like, all hats are off. You have to take on the persona of the movie. And, my first film was with Jim Carrey, and that was straight up industrial darkness. Mm-hmm. And I wish that was available. It's not available yet because for some reason they didn't put it out. But some of my scores do end up available for everybody, so look for them. But yeah, Film music is completely a different animal for me right now, because I'm just literally I meet with directors and I sit down and we talk about the different angle of music, the different instruments you can use, and it's just a whole new world for me, and I really love it. My former boss and I used to talk about it all the time back in the 90s. We would talk about how just making a cool sound like Mark Isham, some just drones and different sounds like that. That was just stuff we loved, but we had no place for it really in our rock bands, and eventually someone asked me to do it, Jim Carrey, and I love it. It's amazing to turn on a computer, have a film with no music on it whatsoever, and just like a painter, just paint in these sounds and textures and emotions, because it's literally, some of these scenes, you can be working on something that it's just like, wow, this is how it is. Mm-hmm. It's just like, is this going to be any good? And then the next thing you know, you put just a simple piano piece underneath it, or just a simple little, violin or some synthesizer, and boom, the mood changes so hard, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, this is a movie, and I love that. I think it's amazing. And, I don't tour as much as I used to. I love it. I love playing shows and everything, but I've got kids and I want to see them grow up. So it's a great excuse for me to stick around, Hollywood and hang out with my kids and have almost like a 9-to-5 existence where I go to work at 11 o'clock in the morning and then stay there for 5 or 6 hours and make music for a film and then come home and then help them with their homework. Mm-hmm. It's good to be 51 when you've got other things in your life besides jumping around on stage like a crazy little monkey. I adore all ends of music. Whether it's making brand new records or performing live or doing music for film, it's just awesome. And I'm so thankful and grateful that I can still keep making music and having fun with it. It's been an amazing life for me to be, looking back, 20 years ago I released a record that I thought would have killed me. You know what I mean? If I tried to do that record the way I did. I mean, it was method acting. It was I'm not gonna write a love song, from a place of like being a naive little 19-year-old kid who hadn't seen the world yet. I'm writing a love song, losing, one of the most important relationship, and literally like drinking over it, and taking drugs, and all right, before this kicks in, turn on the mic and let's see what happens, taking a bunch of Xanax and like a sip of tequila, and like, okay, here, let's see what happens. You know what I mean? Like, give me the mic. You know what I mean? That methodology of recording, I gotta say, something was captured in those moments. It's tough as a recovering alcoholic to admit that, like, you've got to really conjure those images. You've really got to get into what was that guy's name? The method actor Strasberg. But it's just this method of like you literally meditate yourself into this person. And you go for it, and you live this person, and that's what I was doing for the record. I was like, I'm actually breaking up with my girlfriend. Turn on the mic, and being dangerous, and being on drugs, and driving recklessly, and just being crazy, being a nut, and that's a massive gamble. Amalgamut, I can't necessarily say it worked. Amalgamut was. It was looser. It was crazier. My thoughts were getting jumbled. That was pretty much like the Drug Addict record. And it still was a great record, but it was not as focused. And, that's the thing, and that's what got me sober, was kind of, okay, wait a minute. Amalgamut's a great record, and I love it, but I know that personally I could have done better, and I can admit that. That's what is sobriety. Sobriety is being able to look back and go, hey, things didn't work out, but like I'm healthy now, and that's and then I went on to do Army of Anyone, created a band with arguably some of the greatest music makers of all time, Robert and Dean DeLeo, and Ray Luzier. So life hands you lemons. You make lemonade, and you go on, and you learn from your mistakes, and that's what that was the lesson of Army of Anyone. It's like that's the life experience I gave to Army of Anyone was health and finding your salvation, whether it's a piece of music or something else. And so it's important to always put yourself in music, and that's what I've done, and that's what I've tried to do. And I think Title of Records, one shining example of the work I've done over the years, and I just want to keep doing it.
Well, I'll end with actually quoting Amalgamut with, where do we go from here? Because you've talked about, you are making another Filter record. Do you take what you're doing on the film? Do you allow yourself to kind of put all these new sounds into it, or does it need to sound like Filter?
Well, there's definitely I'm getting together with other musicians. I want to be, with this record, I want it to be as extreme as possible. I want every song on this record to just reflect a completely different thing from the next one. So this might be the audience-crushing record that I hope of all the records, because I literally am like, if we're going to be heavy, let's be like fucking real, like super heavy. And then like the take a picture type of angle is almost like ambient music, like no vocals, like it's so soft I'm not even singing. Like, you know what I mean? I'm really, really looking forward to showing the world. Some of it's already been kind of almost put out. There's a song called Thoughts and Prayers, and it's about gun violence, but it's not overtly about gun violence. It's just, it's like, hey, I think the line is, thoughts and prayers, posts and shares, I'm bleeding out of open wounds, but I got your thoughts and prayers, like from the victim's standpoint. So some of it's pretty heavy and in your face. A lot of it was kind of inspired by, our current administration and what's going on in America, the division in America. But now I'm kind of going into this weird ambient phase that's going to be short-lived, because that stuff's fun to make, but it's not is fulfilling to listen to. So I'm getting back into. So it's just all over the map, and it's gorgeous. It does sound more epic, but you're going to have to wait until we figure out how to really. I'm hoping it'd be like maybe 7 songs, and all of those songs encapsulate a totally new feeling that takes you on a road like Title of Record did, which was just start to finish, and beginning, middle, and end. And I think that is missing in our single-driven kind of landscape that is music. The people that buy Filter records, all 10,000 of them, bless their hearts, thank you so much. Those guys expect records. My audience expects a record that's that they can get on vinyl, that they can listen to from start to finish, and it should take them on a journey. It should be more like a movie and not a TV show, not an episode. You know what I mean? It should be something that it won't last 2 hours, but it'll hopefully take you on a journey, like all great records do. And I hope to aspire to be like some of the amazing artists that I've listened to over the years, obviously. And I mean, every time I kick on my computer, every time I get together with someone, I'm trying to outdo Title of Record. I'm trying to outdo all that stuff, and again, it's just an honor and a privilege to be allowed to be able to do it, so a lot of gratitude.
Well, all that is really exciting. Like the way you're painting this new record, however it lands, I'm on board. That sounds really awesome to me.
There's definitely some cool stuff. You're going to really love it.
Richard, it has been so great talking to you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it. And
you got it. I appreciate it. I hope I didn't ADHD too much and go down the rabbit hole on some things, but I try and keep everything on point.
You're a really fun interview because you're really easy.
You put a cup of coffee in front of me and I'll tell you everything you want to know. I mean, it's not that hard.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today. I'll see you when we see you.
Soon. Yeah, I love Louisville. Love it.
All right, man. Take care.
Louisville. You got it. Talk to you soon.
And my thanks, Richard Patrick of the band Filter. Title of Record, the 20th anniversary edition of that is already out. Came out back in August. 2020 also will be the 25th anniversary of Short Bus, as he mentioned there. And I look forward to that new music as well. And thanks to you for checking out the episode. Before you get out of here, if you're not already, please do hit that subscribe button to keep up with this series. It is the best way to hear what all of your favorite artists are up to. You can find us at iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, Podchaser, Acast, etc., etc., etc. Subscribe any of those places. Give the series a rating, leave a review, say hi in the YouTube comment box, whatever you got, whatever you're inspired to do. After that, head to WFPK.org. That's where I do a show Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern. It's an hour full of song premieres, music news, anniversary spins, and bonus interviews. And again, that's WFPK.org. Consequence of Sound has your music and film news. You can also find me on social media at Kyle Meredith. They're all the same addresses, at Kyle Meredith. That does it for another edition. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.
Consequence Podcast Network.
So can you hear that weed whacker?
Not much. Not really at
Outside.
all. Yeah, you're fine.
I mean, I live in the suburbs. Really? You can start that now? It's like fucking suburban nightmare hell. The weed whackers out here. It fucking rained yesterday, and now I'm just kidding, dude. I'm totally just kidding.